Hey folks, welcome to my portion of Distorted Realities segment called Rocking Out with J Rock, which we'll present every week. And pretty much the format is for us to discuss what we thought about the previous episode. In this case, it was episode 4. And please make sure you like and subscribe. Tune into the show. Watch it on Sundays at 5, every Sunday at 5. All right. With that being said, I'm J Rock. Welcome to my segment, and I really want to talk about this Admiral Richard Byrd situation because my thoughts were going everywhere, and I got really excited because Admiral Richard Byrd is a person who made a lot of impact in terms of what he explored. So just to give you a little context, he was part of Operation High Jump. And basically, they went to Antarctica to explore. But what was documented, I guess, on the Longines Chronoscope video was that he discovered beyond Antarctica and found a continent that is as big, if not bigger, than the United States, filled with abundant resources. So I began to ask myself a question, right? Wow, how come this was never told in the history books? How come I wasn't taught this in school? If this guy is the blueprint for what we call today Indiana Jones on TV, how come we're not discussing him enough? And it dawned on me, an exploration like that can really incite a lot of change and not favorable to those who want to control. It also led to the questioning of, well, if this is true, then everything we come to learn about the globe theory goes out the window. Because now we have a continent that far surpasses Antarctica, and then that means that should be visible on our maps. So yeah, I thought about this and gave it careful thought. I did more thinking and more research, and I ran into something called Flat Earth Clues by Mark Sargent, and it's a series of videos that really discuss the flat Earth theory, and it goes into the science behind it and how the system has educated you to understand and perceive the world the way, I guess, people in power want you to perceive it. But then at the very end of the video, he tells you why, and it's because they're trying to hide God. And in doing so, I kind of gave it more thought, and I said, well, this is going up. And if we're living in an enclosed system, going up would take you to the heavens and you can see God. Then what lies beyond, meaning left and right? Is there really an end, or is there something more beyond that? So I ran shortly thereafter, I ran into some documents from a gentleman called Nos Confunde, and he had some maps and some books that explain about the 178 worlds that exist within our system. Now, by system is we're all one flat earth, and then there's enclosed systems inside of them. And I started thinking about the movie The Maze Runner. I said, well, that's kind of odd, right? Because The Maze Runner is about being in an enclosed system, escaping it to only end up in a different enclosed system. And then I thought about the Hunger Games, where every district represented a location. And I said, there's a lot of consistency and commonalities between these movies. And I said, maybe somebody's trying to tell us something, right? A little more digging, and then I said, I acquired the map from Nos Confunde, and I started looking at it, and I started noticing that the names match some of the planetary systems, some of the Greek gods and myths that we grew up to learn. And then I started saying, maybe the science fiction becomes science fact is just more than that, right? Maybe the dinosaurs that we see, or the dragons, or the things that we imagine probably do exist. It just doesn't exist in our enclosed system. It exists far beyond. And only those who know can actually understand that and go to beyond those places, right? So it made for an interesting case. And for me, it's important to understand that, and I've always stated this for the record, anything that has ever been created must first be imagined. But there's certain things that you are brought up to believe that it was just created off the whim. And there has to be something more logical than just, well, somebody was that creative. A griffin was just someone's idea. This stuff is in ancient scriptures and art and And this goes beyond imagination. It takes a very critical and logical mind to have that level of aptitude. It doesn't mean that there weren't any geniuses. However, I think that I like the idea that there's something more out there to explore, something more out there to see, something fantastical that goes beyond rhyme and reason, that science itself won't be able to explain. Because that's what makes it unique for us humans. We're always looking for something beyond. And that's what I encourage you to do. So our moniker here at Distorted Realities is discuss the unknown and seek your own truth. And that's the reason. We're creatures of human habit. We want to keep exploring. We want to keep seeing these weird and bizarre things. And sometimes those things have a tendency to create awe and inspiration and drive you to go beyond new heights. So if you look at the map of Antarctica and you see that it sits at the southern tip of the globe, it's actually going around itself similar to an island, right? But it's just a big island, so it's a continent. However, the ice wall, as portrayed by the flat earthers, it's encapsulating all of our continents as one super giant blockade, right? Now, here's the funny part. That it's great that you mentioned that, but the funny part is that if you go too high, you run out of air, and essentially, you tend to pass out. If you go too low in the water, your body starts to compress itself. If you go too deep into soil, eventually you hit magma and lava, right? But if you go beyond the ice walls, you freeze to death. So it almost feels like intentfully, whoever created our system did it in a way where, yeah, you can get just far enough, but that's about it. And the great thing about it is that in Antarctica, there are actual sections of the wall that are accessible to go beyond within certain points in the seasons. So yeah, that's kind of what Antarctica is envisioned like in the flat earth model versus the globe model. You know, it's funny, when you look at Antarctica and you compare species between Antarctica and our remaining continents that are within Antarctica, if you follow the flat earth system, is that these animals are very rare and unique to that system, to that ecology, because it's so cold. And what you notice is that if you go to the very depths of those particular oceans, the animals are either bigger or they're very translucent. You know, they start glowing and emitting different colors. They kind of adapted to that ecology. Now, it's great that you see that, because if you watch a show like Game of Thrones, for example, the story is that these empires are competing for power to have one person rule them all. But there's this ice wall, right, that has a group of people called the White Walkers that are ready to come to our territory and invade, right? What lies beyond that, we don't know, but that's the magic of it, right? If we could imagine dinosaurs and creatures that we've seen in books and in fantasy and even through our childhood that we spoke about, that means that it's possible that there are species out there that we have never laid eyes on. For example, we talk about Godzilla. Godzilla is a Japanese term for kaiju. It's a giant beast that's taller than cities, right? In the US, we call them dinosaurs, right? T-Rex, Brontosaurus, Stegosaurus, you name it. That's what we grew up on. Who's to say those things still don't exist? And that's the magic of it. So those are my thoughts for this segment. And I just want to say thank you for watching Rocking Out with J-Rock. You guys are awesome. Thank you for your love and support. And stay tuned for the next episode on Sunday, which is episode 5. And stay tuned.